Marathon is a game that needs no introduction. Infamous for its lackluster first impressions in 2025 and a plagiarism scandal that rocked the internet. But lately, my YouTube feed has been swarming with videos swearing things are different. Marathon is a changed game. I'm not sure if it's just the algorithm or just what content creators want to talk about, but every time I open up my feed, it's pulling up a new vid from another creator saying, hey, this game was bad last year, but a few things are better, so now it's going to be good. And while this is the popular narrative for content creators right now, the court of public opinion still hasn't reached a decision. I always find it interesting how different the comment section is if you filter by top and if you filter by newest. Let's take this video for example. So if you filter by top comment, this is what you get. Positive comment, another positive comment, a positive comment, another positive comment. So it goes on and on. You got to go way down to start seeing some negative comments. But if you filter by newest, which should be a little bit more unbiased because you're just seeing them in no particular order, then we have negative comment, a neutral negative comment, a negative comment, negative, 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 and then finally a positive comment, and then another negative comment and another negative comment. But let me get this straight. This is not an attack on the creator of that video, not in the slightest. Nor do I necessarily agree with what the negative comments are saying. I'm merely pointing out that it's interesting what narratives are being shown to us and what's not. So I wanted to take a more nuanced and reserved look at what these changes are, how they'll affect the game, and realistically, what are the struggles Marathon needs to overcome if it's going to win back the people it turned away last year. So first off, what's new? They have confirmed the addition of proximity chat, which is honestly a welcome feature. I've always taken the stance that there is almost no game that is made worse with proximity chat. And as far as maintaining player numbers, proximity chat ensures a stream of consistent free marketing. Via the nature of proximity chat, there's always going to be another viral clip popping off. We saw this with Arc Raiders, we saw it with BattleBit, and if we go way back, we saw it with Rust. This is the kind of stuff that draws the casual everyday person in. They've also included their own version of a free loadout system. Essentially, it's a unique class or hero that's abilities are focused on scavenging called Rook. This feature is also a great addition. For a lot of players, I know this helps a lot with gear fear. For me personally, nothing will cure my crippling and debilitating gear fear. But what I do love is that when I hop on after a long day at work and my brain's tired and I just want to play the game, I can unload my backpack and just play. Having that available as a one button press, play the game option, makes it so much easier to hop in when you just have 45 minutes. If you only had 45 minutes to play Tarkov, you'd only halfway finish organizing your stash and making your kit before you had to get off the game. The game also went through a much needed visual uplift. When we saw clips of the closed alpha last year, it was almost laughable how bad it looked compared to the original trailer. Now they went for something that's obviously a little bit more grounded and gritty. They still obviously use very bright colors, but it's done with seemingly more intention. I actually really do like how the game looks now, but I know that's going to be a point of major contention. Firstly, there are some people that will never even touch this game solely because of the plagiarism that occurred back in 2025. Personally, I think saying the entire art style was stolen seems a bit of an overstatement. Obviously, the scenario that occurred was not good, and companies need to be held accountable, especially when plagiarism occurred. But to say that the entire art style is now invalid, that an entire team of people have worked on because one of those team members took something he shouldn't, seems a little unfair to me. Again, before I have upset people in the comments, plagiarism is very obviously bad. I'm not contesting that. And I hope the person that was a victim of it is more than fairly compensated. But to now invalidate the work of everyone involved seems a little extreme to me. And then there are people who, regardless of that situation, just don't like this art style. It's definitely divisive. The guns especially have come under quite a bit of criticism, especially because of their blocky designs, which is fair. They look adjacent to placeholder models you might see in an early build of a game, but that also seems to be done, at least in my opinion, with intention. They're obviously going for a little bit of graphic realism that incorporates an emphasis on synthetically produced objects, and I think they fit that vibe. And I understand this is going to come down to personal preference for a lot of people. The team at Marathon probably knew that this art style was going to raise some eyebrows, but at least regardless of how you feel about it, it does hold a unique visual identity. I think right now in the current landscape, especially for live service games, being distinct is a lot more important than being subjectively good. High Guard especially is something that comes to mind. When you have something that's visual style is so bland and derivative, so many people will immediately write it off as being a complete copy of another thing before they've even had the chance to form real opinions on the gameplay elements. And now, finally, the thing that worries me the most about Marathon. That would be the inclusion of the hero shooter elements. I think it is fairly directly antithetical to what makes extraction shooters fun, and especially what could make Marathon fun. The promise of an extraction shooter a lot of times derives from the value and power that gear holds. And when you have a majority of this power come from an external source, i.e. a class or hero system, it somewhat cheapens the effect that loot can have. While I do like that this will play into the build crafting aspect of the game in a meaningful way, I think it creates a design problem where you have these two systems clashing with one another. Heroes in a hero shooter have a very specific role and purpose. Or even if you look at something that's not a hero shooter like Apex, it allows players to have a distinct play style and create unique gameplay scenarios. Very intentional. But these games create their feel of power through different means. And these hero effects don't cheapen or dilute the effect of one of their other systems. Where with Marathon, for each bit of power fantasy that they put into these character abilities, it has an equal effect of diluting the perceived power of the loot that you have in your kit. I think that these specializations could have been a lot more interesting if they were created directly through loot, as opposed to clicking on the highly recognizable named silhouette that they've created. So what does this all mean? Is Marathon doomed to fail as it would have originally if they were released during all the bad press? Or is it going to succeed off the changes they've made and the huge amount of new extraction shooter players that Arc Raiders has brought to the genre? I think the ultimate point of this video is that it doesn't matter what I think, but what you do. We don't have a finished product in our hands, and we can all form our own different opinions off of the evidence we have and the changes they've made. Maybe the parts of the game I've criticized will be fantastic, and maybe the parts I'm excited for will make the game an unbalanced mess. But if I've learned anything, it's don't pre-order and don't have someone else's opinion solely because they said it, but have an opinion because you believe it for the same reasons that they do. Thanks for watching the video.